All right, welcome back to Soul Spark Tarot. I'm your host, Mr. Renew, and we're back. So, we're gonna do a daily message. Go ahead and skip ahead to the reading if you want to, but without further ado, we'll get to yapping. So, took a little hiatus. Didn't really want to, but energetically needed to. Had to process some of my own stuff. And these last 2 days have been the hardest, or really last three. And so all the days that I haven't been here, I've been expending a lot of physical energy. Haven't been spending too much time on the spiritual side. So it's about time to switch back. The last couple of days have been energetically and spiritually rougher than the energies on the physical side. So the physical, I've just been grinding. I've been proud of myself. Been happy with those things. Spiritual side, I haven't been meditating or doing as much, but I've been seeking solitude and quiet. So even if I'm not consciously processing, I was processing, just because the habit of putting myself in situations that allows me to do so. And with that said, last night was pretty rough. There's just certain dreams that I have that I know that be real, and then there's other dreams that I know that be real lessons. And I had a wake up call. It was a real ass lesson last night. The lesson was, well, let me back up. I believe this is the last end to the Mercury retrograde. And that's been an amazing thing for me just because of where it's located. And we'll end up talking about house astrologies eventually on this channel. But what it allowed me to do is, excuse me, it allowed me to really see like myself. And it helped me see my change. And what that did was it helped me also realize that there's a part of me who still didn't want to change. And this part of me was deep. This part of me is my lover. You know, if I had to pick a personality type, it was a lover, right? The lover energy versus the king energy versus the warrior energy, versus the magician energy. It was the lover side, and the lover side was of the mind, and it was from the family love. So familial love. In this case, it was the form of my long-term girlfriend, and it's funny. In this energy, essentially, I was looking at the deep seed that was planted between us both. And the deep seed was the Ten of Pentacles, that ace that comes inside of us so we can grow so many other branches. That is what I had to look for. And since the time that we've been separated, I've never seen her as a bad person. I've never got a chance to see her as wrong. Ever, ever. And like there was a time frame where I did see the wrong, and that was cool. But it wasn't like a hateful wrong or anything like that. And so, in other words, I still kept a lot of love in my heart for that woman. And even now, like I think I've talked about her before because I've had a dream about her before again, but this is during the Mercury retro period. And I'm telling this story because it is regarding, again, a deep space. It's a deep space. And that deep space that is just there, anybody can occupy that space. Anybody, anything. The whole notion is that if you want to have the right things, do that. And you can't just go out and cut that energy off. It's a space. How the fuck you gonna cut air? You can't. So that's why the Queen of or the Queen of Swords came out, because there's a Queen of Pentacles inside of me that's trying their best to try to nurture that space, but you can't nurture air in the same way as you nurture something physical, like a seed. So you have to use words. You have to use stories. You have to use the energies that flow. And then you got to be the thing to capture those energies and then direct them. Kind of like a sail, kind of like a turbine. You don't you don't do anything to the wind like you would do to a seed. You would water the seed and you can manicure the plant, and then you can add braces and things. You can physically touch and manipulate a seed or something earthy. With the air stuff, you can't. You have to build contraptions to where it'll capture the air that's there, and then you got to be grateful for the times that you have it, because it won't be there all the time. So because it won't be there all the time, we have to start to appreciate the times that we have. And this is like the idea of smooth sailing, because you have the wind captured to where you can push you forward for a while. You have the right mindset, you have the right angle, you have the right device, you have the right timing. So in this time, I realized one of the reasons why I had to walk away was for the benefit of not just us. It was for more. And like I've told this story before, like I knew she wasn't my wife because of how she behaved, but I didn't know what that sounded like coming from the person you love so much, telling you he's me telling her that you're not my wife. And we had a few arguments about that. You know, those burdens putting on her, at the same time those burdens putting on me, and it just made me realize that there was parts of me that already understood the situation, even though I had so much love for this girl. Like, to the point to where it just simply became a part of me. And because it was just a part of me, it was able to get pushed to the back burner. And that was towards the end of our relationship. Because I knew I loved her so deeply, because I knew, like, I wanted to make her my wife, that doesn't mean she was my actual wife. And the reason why I'm saying it this way is because we have desires and we have wants that are not bad. They're just not useful. And the unuseful aspect that I'm bringing right now is the fact that she occupied a space. So again, it's smooth sailing, right? I got the wind captured in this one area, this one space, this heart space, this deep heart space, but it was without fault. In other words, I still was putting her on a pedestal because, again, nobody has ever understood me as emotionally as her. And even to this day, like, I love her for that. But she would not get the reason why she wasn't my wife is because she wouldn't give me the other parts. There was no more outside of that. In other words, we connected so deeply on the emotion that we just knew how to operate together. And again, that led to sneakiness. That led to a lot of deception that I just would not even give a fuck to consider. And then same thing on her side. Like, there was infidelities on my part because I just didn't give a fuck to not. And it wasn't like premeditated. None of this shit ever was, but on my end, it was always flyby. But because she is not that kind of person to think that way, it was premeditated on her end. So it was an understanding that I had to really like get in tune with, because that's being in love with toxicity unwillingly, unknowingly, habitually. These are just things that were happening because of the simple fact that they could. And because they could happen, they did happen because we didn't know why they shouldn't. And so, did not know what I should do, did not know what I could do outside of just love. And so, as I'm telling this story to myself, as I'm doing my own meditation, as I'm doing my healing after the dream, I'm realizing during the dream, it was always her allowing me to put myself in dangerous situations. Now, understand that shows that she was, submissive in other parts, but she would never stand up and nurture other parts because some of those things nearly led me to my death. And even in the situations of things that happened with me, I would not be able to consider her not a part of it. So, all in all, I'm grateful for the fact that we're not together because all the negative things that happened. But I've always speculated that she was in cahoots with the whole situation just for her own desires to spite and hurt and cause pain. She could never understand that there was intellectual things that were needed that was causing pain. There's physical things that was needed that was causing pain. I mean, I was with this girl through changes, bro. Like so many changes on her end, but she didn't realize that. She didn't intellectualize any of those, and then she damn well didn't talk about them. Not to me, and that was the problem. So I needed more from her in that space that was so deep within me. But she had enough love. Again, just when I'm one on one with people, they're not the same as when there were groups of people, which is one huge indicator of why I leave. I know you're being different. I don't judge you for both sides, but you're hurting me and you're not standing up for me. That can't be. Then when I was younger, I let it fly. I let it slide. A lot of things slide. Just giving, nurturing to everybody. And guess what? It limited my growth. It limited my mind. It limited my abilities. But it didn't limit my heart. And then that was the strongest muscle that I was given. It was like everyone knew that I was so loving and giving that like they just would take from this abundant tree. That's how I felt. But this is what I understand now. And I understand it because I've taken the time to actually go through it. And I've taken the time to actually block it out too. So I know a lot about it, this energy inside of me. And the reason why I can say it like that is because I'm aware of myself in both directions. So because I'm aware of myself in both directions, it's important for me to understand the player side versus the coach side, the teacher side versus the student side, the doctor side versus the intern side. It's just you got to look at these things as the boy and the man, the girl and the woman. You got to see it. But women, you got another side to you too, just like parents versus dad versus mom versus grandparents versus granddad and grandmom. Like those are slight deviations that women always go through. Always go through. Men, we can reconcile it. We can become one thing for a while before we deviate into variations. And the reason why that is important is because we all have energies in us that do both of those things. Compare things in contrast. It's 2 into 1 or 1 split into 2. I finally got a chance to see these things split as they are, but whole in and of themselves and whole as a pair or team. Finally got a chance to see that through this dream, and in this dream, it really helped me see that as much love as I have for this person, there was not enough trust. There was not enough intellectual understanding. There was not enough pushing of the boundaries in the areas that we needed. The spiritual side absolutely lacked between us. So I appreciate everything, but now I fully appreciate myself because no, when I started to look back after reflecting on the dream, I looked back and I just coached myself like I would coach anybody. And guess what? I just was honest with that part of myself, not hurtful, not harmful, not judgmental. And I just said it frankly. Like, oh, if that happened, bro, like you would have to leave. And I would tell that to anybody. You got to leave her. And guess what? I did. And I really didn't want to, bro. I did not want to leave but I knew, guess what it was? The reason what I knew is that I wasn't her husband. I know I used to verbalize that she wasn't my wife, but that's because she didn't want to understand I'm not your husband. And that was hard again because I was her husband in her eyes. I was the man. I did everything like a husband was supposed to do. I did it all. So how could she not believe it? Well, it's because she wasn't doing it all for me. And it was just kept being shown towards the end of our relationship. It just kept being shown further and further. And it was shown in ways that allowed me to make decisions. But because I was so used to making decisions for in totalities, for the whole group, for the whole team, instead of for me, I made certain decisions for me and I took it the wrong way. I took it as choices made between multiple people, me and the other party, but it was my choices. And I couldn't accept that for the longest because I didn't know how to. And then I've been making nothing but choices for myself for a long, long time. Like, since I made that decision to leave. I mean, even before then, I was making choices, but because then I had, let's say, a lot more overgrowth. It was a lot more overgrowth, we can say. So I had to manicure and I had to get the house looking all clean, had to clean up everything. There's a lot more work to do at the beginning. But now, since I've been doing the work for so long consistently, it isn't much things to do. The house looked good, the outside looked good. We're ready to sell the property, kind of thing. There's all the grasses and hedges is manicured and nicely organized and chopped. It looks amazing, ready for market, pristine. But the time it took to clean the dirty ass house versus the clean up, the well secured and cleaned up house, those time frames are important to understand as you go from one thing to the next, because you have more over here, which means you have less over here. That means it's easier to see what needs to be cleaned up over here, and it's harder to see what needs to be cleaned up over here because everything is in a place for the most part. So you got to figure out a new point of view, and that is things that you do differently. You don't polish, the floors on a dirty ass house if you didn't sweep the floor or if you didn't mop the floor. You're not going to skip that step. There's things that just happened later. I'm not going to dust the house if there's a whole bunch of dusty shit still inside the house. That'll be pointless. I'm not going to sweep the floors if I got a whole bunch of trash still on the counters. There's just steps that you have to go through. We gotta go through these things, and as we're going through these things, the world around is changing. And so by the time you get over here, when you don't have anything to dust, when you don't have anything to pick up, when you don't have things that are dusty in the way, then you gotta say, but it still needs to be cleaned. So then this is the idea of getting into the polishing, the buffering. This is the idea of, let me repaint the wall kind of thing. This is the idea of, let me get an acid in here like a plant to circulate the airflow. Let me get, a carpet on top of my carpet. You start putting in the other things, and now you got to maintain those new things in different ways because the environment allows it. So the junky environment from the past that, was easy to see what was wrong and out of place versus the well-organized spot, you still got to see that there's things out of place because eventually, again, you got to take out the trash. It's little things that you don't normally see. Most people don't want their trash just to be out in the open. So guess what? You don't see it as well. But if you know it's there and you know it's a space that you put there to hold certain things, then you got to know when it's time to change that space up or go clean it up, even if nobody else around will see it. You got to know your house. You got to know when something is out of order. Just because a stranger comes over or, family member and they think your house is perfectly clean, you would know what needs to be cleaned. Oh, well, I didn't wipe down my baseboards today. None of the mirrors have been re-cleaned. It's long day. I got to get out there and, yeah, the house look good, but I got to go trim some bushes now. it's the understanding of what you understood. And so for me, in this deep space that I've allowed my long-term relationship to hold in my heart, it has now been cleansed. And it's, again, it took a long time, but it's the thing that allowed me to keep myself out in the cold. It's what allowed me to be okay with the little, because again, it was like putting myself on punishment. It was like being my own judge and causing my own punishment. I mean, for the crimes I thought I committed, when in reality, God has been trying to tell me this whole time, it wasn't a crime for you to just love and grow and try. It wasn't. It wasn't. The crime was you staying when you knew you should have left. The crime was you not wanting to leave the first two times we told you to go. And then it just kept getting worse because of the love. And I understood that I loved her so much, but I didn't understand the first time why we should have broke up. I didn't understand the emotional aspects that I was exchanging with her. It was just deep love. And then there was girls after that who, again, was testing my patience so much. But these other women were better suited for me, but I just saw them as opportunity. That's because I was fucking young. And then the second time it happened, I know it was infidelity on both ends. And it wasn't like there was a bunch of cheating. It was, again, the emotional expression that was provided was the emotional expression being shared. And because that was the main important thing, we didn't give a fuck about the external aspects. In other words, I would spend all my time, energy, and resources with her, no problem. And then I would change my family. So then it gets to the next part where I should have broke up, and now I am spending more time with my friends and my family, but I'm neglecting her, and she's all by herself now. And so it was like, okay, I'm seeing the trends, but this is due to reflection. And now I'm at the point to where instead of being the one that always wants to actually go through and say it's okay, say I'm strong, say I can handle it, if I was with my coach, with a therapist, with a counselor, with an advisor, and I'm listening, I'm able to do those things to those thoughts inside of me because I've practiced doing those things outside of me, other people. So I can objectively pull myself out of the emotion now and then just treat it as if I'm observing to other people. And guess what? That helps me. This is the idea of coaching yourself. Inspiration for that self. The actions that I've been taking and helping in this real world has allowed me to reflect and apply those techniques and tools on the internal world. So now I'm able to see. And what am I able to see? The objective reality. In other words, I'm not going to try to hurt anybody who comes to my assistance. So because I know that wholeheartedly and I can trust that in myself, now when there's a part of me that pulls up and I allow it, I have to really, really, really get myself out of the biased point of view and just say it is what it is. An example of this would be when I was school counseling and two friends would come in and they had a beef. They had a quarrel. And because they were fighting, I would have to help them understand the best part about people is helping yourself first. You got to take care of you. And you guys are friends. And if you both can't talk right now, then you both got to go do something different. Find some space, find some separation, go hang out with some other people. You can't tell that to yourself. But you can be one of those students. And that's what I would do. And I would talk to these students individually. Came in together, you separate, and then guess what? I'll talk to y'all one at a time, and then I'll tell y'all the same exact things, but because you're different people, it's going to have different results. But it's the same energy. So I gave myself the same energy too. And so because I'm a different person, it got a different result. And that's it. That is the whole understanding. And now, instead of in my heart and in my mind space as I'm meditating, looking back at this situation and finding all the good, I got to go back and say, well, why did we leave? Why did we go? And then all the reasons start popping up again, and then boom, now we can see why we needed a break from that friend. But now, because I finally identified where the leak was coming from, or the small thing that nobody would notice, finally identified it. And again, it was just the fact that as much love as I wanted to continue to share with this person on an energetic scale, because again, this was my longest relationship, and we was high school sweethearts. It was the youthful aspect to it too. The learning, the growing, the trials, the tribulations, all of that. I mean, again, couple of years over, she has been in a relationship. And when I look at the time frame where she got in that relationship, again, I'm sure it was infidelity then too. And then, again, pressure from people like her family to be spiteful and harmful and hurtful, because again, I probably stepped on their toes during my growth stage at some point in time that they just never spoke up about because for the sake of the daughter. Doesn't matter. What matters is that I'm now in a spot to where I understand that I want the honesty, I want the truth, I want the authenticity. I want us to be able to know and grow, because we should be able to hold an objective point of view for ourselves as adults. I can't fault myself when I was fucking 17. I can't do that shit again when I was 19 or 20. There's different objectives, there's different things, there's different people we're around, different purposes of life. And now that I'm in my 30s, again, it is an understanding of not being in my head over things from the past, but sometimes we're not in our heads. Sometimes it's in our hearts, and that talks to our head. So we have to start to appreciate a little bit more the things that we're receiving from ourselves. And again, the reason why I can say this is simple. I never hated her. So it was love that was blocking me from growing. That's crazy. But the love that I had for her was blocking me, even after all the hurtful things that she did. And I knew it was on purpose just to make me like bad. And guess what? I've always took every situation and transmuted it into something loving, something that stabilized me more, something that helps even further. So, I want you to do the same. I want you to be able to take that lesson and really get outside and treat yourself as you the moderator. If you are having an issue with your spouse, meditate, think about it, and be the divorce lawyer. Be the divorce judge, and then talk to yourself from an objective point of view. Be your lawyer and be your judge, because again, the lawyer is a third party, but he had to adhere to a second third party called the judge on your behalf. Guess what? That's pretty biased. So be the judge on both sides. Be the lawyer for both sides. And that helps you stay on nobody's side, because you just want to be objective. You want to work with yourself. You want to be able to sit in the middle and say, well, shit, you did this, then that equals that. Oh, but you caused this way, so that equals this. So we got to be able to say, okay, it's okay. We got to be able to say, these are the things that's all right. Because they'll be all right for other people. And if they're all right for other people, that means they can be all right for you. You just got to allow it and try it. You just got to put the energy into it, investing in that time externally in the real world, so you can have the confidence subconsciously to do it internally. I just thought about somebody right now who, again, I just objectively do not want to be with anymore, just because of all the efforts of trying. But then the fact that she just popped up in my mind like she did, it shows me that I may have been resisting. But again, I'm at the point to where, am I resisting because of what I just told you in that story? Am I resisting because I don't want anybody to occupy that space anymore? Am I resisting because I feel like this person been knocking at that space trying to get in, but there's no space for her to come in? I mean, this says yes, but I don't know how to accept that because, again, the way that it got in, the love got into that heart space, it's not happening the same way. Nothing is the same. So I don't know how to let it in without just allowing it to come in and let people be people. And that idea of let people be people is the thing that probably keeps me in the past locked up. I probably do know how. I just, again, am telling myself, just like I do know why we broke up. But I just kept telling myself and accepting all parts. But there was a reason. I wasn't her husband. I wasn't the guy for her because she wasn't the woman that completely gave me what I needed. And it's, again, basic shit like having conversations instead of just watching the movie. Instead of just doing activities that will promote conversation, well, we can just talk. And there was a time where we were doing it. Like we would just wake up in the morning and have breakfast and coffee outside, and she would make fruits and stuff. Like, I wanted. I would make coffee and shit. It was good, and we'd just go outside and we'll start our day together. But then that stopped, and so everything else stopped. And then there was a time where we would work out together, and then that stopped because, again, I was talking to her as in a way of where she was versus, or what she used to be versus where she currently was, and it just wasn't appropriate. Just like I can have the same lesson, but if I'm teaching it to a second grader, I can't teach it the same way to an eighth grader. I can use things that are alike, but it still, at the core foundation, is going to be a different presentation. So I didn't understand that then, but I understand it now. So I am not afraid of working through certain things with my legacy building spouse. I'm not afraid of that. I can turn around and I can look at the idea of, okay, even if I might have the fear, I got the practice. And now I'm thinking about Evel Knievel. If you know who that is, he was a famous stunt guy. He's famous for doing stunts, but I'm sure he was still scared at every single stunt. Every single one. He was like, well, I could fucking die. Fuck it, we've done this before, boy. We practiced this, boy. He had to do something to hype himself up because he had to practice. And that's all I'm doing right now, and that's all that I'm really trying to tell y'all. We'll get over our heartbreak by knowing that we've practiced getting over it. And it's not just going around and causing more relationships. It's about the things that you actually do. And it doesn't matter if it's relationship to self, relationship to others, job, however you've been interacting with the world, that is the relationship that you've been building. And you've been building it because it's been you. So now it's about allowing the doors to open in the areas that you think that you don't know. And to let people live is to allow them to enter the door as they please. Some kids might come to the classroom happy. Some kids might come in there happy and quiet. Some kids might come in there with a group of people talking and arguing, but they enjoy that gossip. There might be kids coming in there sleepy as fuck. There might be kids coming to the classroom late as hell. Lots of different ways they can enter this space. Let people be people as they enter your life, and you be the one to be unbiased. Are they doing these things? Cool. Are they doing those things? Cool. Now I see both sides with no judgment. Let me see how they're individualized. Oh, they're acting in the same pattern over here. I could compare them to those situations. Oh, they're acting in similar patterns over here, but they're getting different outcomes. I can contrast the situation. These are the different areas that we're looking at when we see these contrasts. Again, that's a pillar, that's a pillar. What contrasts them is this is a white one and this is a black one. But what compares them is that they're both pillars. There's a reorientation of how we have to view these things. Just like in a season. It's the same earth. It's the same neighborhood. It's the same time. But guess what? We got different plants growing. Or we have no plants growing. Or we got hot and heat with birds out here chirping. Or we got cold and frigid with birds still chirping. There's always something that'll be the same, and there's always something that'll be different. So I hope that you guys are able to see the differences between yourselves. Guess I need to really get that up. Hopefully you all can see the things that are yourselves now, and you can start to separate yourself from those things that you see. And then you can step into the seat of the soul a little bit more snug and more comfy now, because you've pulled your ego out of that situation. So let's get our overall energy. Came out instantly. Collaboration, working together with others on a mind. So I've noticed one person that's been on my mind that I'm thinking about right now. It's the same person again who tried to explain, I feel like, earlier. But again, I need certain words because I have a deep emotional understanding. And so I'm looking at this person again in my mind sight. And it's like, this is what she's been trying to convey in her videos. But I don't think people really truly understand, because I understand it logically, what she says. But the emotional intellectuals are not there. And they're not even expressed, because I don't think this person has the deep emotional intellectuals. I think this person has the deep intellectual, and I think this person has a deep passion, meaning they can burn and consume things from life, okay? Which means they have interest, they have desires to do things, they have a lust and zest for life, we can say. But it's the idea of consumption of energies in the real world. That's passion. This person has that, but I don't think this person has the emotional depth. And I think because I have that emotional depth and I've been swimming in that, occupying that space in and of my own self, I've blocked out this person. Because again, just because they're not at the deepest depth of the level, they are in the other areas. And because they have all 3 out of 4 that are right what I need, I'm able to teach her that 1/4 that I just haven't been wanting to. But like my mindset is like, I don't even want that anymore. But that's just what my mind would do anyway, because of my makeup. I already knew it's going to do that. And I've been trying to not let it do that, but I got to let it people be people. So, as this collaboration efforts are coming in, I have to start to see how people being people is collaborative and beneficial for me. And what that does is that means you got to pull yourself out of the situation of good for me, bad for me, and then say what's best for everybody in the scenario. That's just one thing, but it hits multiple spots. It's good for me as the judge, and it'll be good for the plaintiff and the defendant. Those 3 people all need to benefit. So, as I'm looking at this person, and as they're searching for ways to get deeper with themselves, they need a partner in order to do that. But they're afraid because, again, they don't understand. So it's like they are afraid to tap into their emotions because they don't understand them enough. Just like I'm afraid to let somebody come into my emotions when they don't understand enough. It's like you got to be at this level here, but then I'm missing on the other side. And so just like I'm saying, you got to be up here, they're saying, well, you got to be up here. And that's just for the things that we know. So in order for us to really find a true balance, we got to appreciate that we're always going to have an area where we're lacking in. And that area can rotate, but the area that rotates, this is where we collaborate in order to get the help. Even though this is the 3 of Pentacles, there's 4 on here. Here's your 3 big pentacles, and you got that small one in the middle. The small pentacle in the middle represents the balance between the Trinity. It is the idea of there's being 3 as 1. This is what we call a new volumetric space. And this is the idea of taking a triangle into a pyramid. A triangle into a pyramid looks the same on paper. But you have to understand that those things are creating heights or depths. And of those creations, it takes three into four and four into three. You can take four parts and turn it into a third, okay? And then you can take three parts and turn it into a whole four. And you gotta understand it's not equating quantities. Well, if you got four dogs, how do you have three dogs? No. You might have four dogs, but you might have three breeds. Two Labradoodles, one pet bull, and a Chihuahua. But you got two Labradoodles. So three breeds of dogs, but four quantities of dogs. Two different things. That's what collaboration is going to be about. You got to be able to fill in the gaps that I don't have, because you might have the dog friends over here, then that motherfucker over there might be a lizard person. They got reptiles and snakes and shit, but y'all all are pet owners now. So this is the idea that we're collaborating with. I had a paper I had to write, and it was talking about collaboration, and the collaboration was on a medical field, but it was of lawyers of all types. It was real estate agents of all types. So lawyers and real estate agents are coming together to collab on medicine. You would think that makes no fucking sense, but guess what? If you let people be people, you got to understand that people have to let you be yourself too. And if people don't understand you or choosing to understand themselves, and they want to enact certain things like fear, like if they want to do like gaslighting, if they want to do, I forgot what they call it when a bunch of people stalk you or whatever, or it appears that way. I forgot what it's called. And then even stalkers themselves. You have to understand that they have to accept you as a person. You have to accept people as people. You got to accept them doing this, because if you focus on them too much, then you'll be pulling yourself out of what you're doing and you're playing their game. So you got to expect yourself to be yourself as well. Doesn't matter what you will do or react. Maybe you don't even care to know. Maybe you don't even care to think about it. But the idea is there's going to be some kind of thing that happens. And if you leave it up as a surprise, then it takes away everything else's power. But it gives you more power because you're letting yourself be a person. And sometimes people get mad. Some people don't give a fuck and they just walk away. And sometimes people want to defend themselves, and sometimes people want to get help. You allowing yourself to come into that classroom as any version of those kids will allow you to enter any space in the world and be truly yourself. And again, to be completely authentic with ourselves is to understand that we are missing a part that other people can fill in. The community can help fill us in. The family can help fill that in for us. So let's get a little bit more on this. Collaboration over broken hearts through the wheel of fortune. So collaboration over broken hearts, these are us looking at things that didn't work out. The old. But now you have two cups, and I always say these two cups back here is the masculine and the feminine side that come together as your ace that you present to others through collaboration. So out of all the things that happened to me, all the pain or the heartbreak of that heart space, yeah, it hurt. It sucked. But I have more of me now, and nothing can ever take that away. And I can now use that new energy to collaborate over here with myself throughout the world, throughout the fortunes. What comes along with that? That's crazy. The Four of Pentacles, which is going to be protected. This is, to me, it's like a beware trespasser sign kind of thing. That's what I'm seeing this as. We can't even see it no more. There we go. Like No trespassing. Beware of dog. That's what this is coming off as. And again, it seems like this mind is protecting now. And so, because we're the type of people who know that water and emotions grow seeds, it's like the seeds that have been grown, we're protecting them from anything that could be devious. Why? Because it's deviations of the mind. The devious aspects is coming from what people telling stories. But you can't tell a story if you're letting a person just be a person. You're just being who you are now. And I have to allow that energy in me. And guess what? You can't come in here talking all loud. Go back and come in the classroom quietly. That's it. That's all this would say in this situation. You're creating a wall, a boundary that has certain precautions. In other words, if you don't have the key to the keyhole, can you get into the door? Yeah, but it's going to be harder. You're going to have to do more things like kick it down or, try to pick the lock or maybe find a roundabout way to get into the classroom. But at the end of the day, the appropriate manner for you getting there is not available. In other words, as much as I wanted that girl to be my wife, she just wasn't my wife because I wasn't her husband. The keyhole, it didn't fit. The key to the keyhole didn't fit. But it was similar. So guess what? Just because I can get in with a butter knife doesn't mean that I'm using the key. Just because I get in with a credit card doesn't mean I have the right key. So guess what? I had to learn to accept that aspect of myself. And guess what? Now since we've accepted that, yeah, it just wasn't the right time. It wasn't the right fit. It wasn't the right person. It just accepting it, yeah. But I'm the right person for myself. And now I gotta just turn around, just like in the Two of Wands card. Just turn around and see that you got your masculine side, see that you got your feminine side. That part of you is still intact. It might be a little empty, but then guess what? You can go off, you can go build some stuff. And now you got 2 pentacles for your masculine side, 2 pentacles for your feminine side, and both of those things are balancing out in and of themselves, and I'm protecting that balancing act. You can't just come into the surface, nigga. You got to pay. Where's your ticket? You can't watch our entertainment. You got to go through the gate, pay some money, get admissions. So, again, we're looking at this aspect, and it's coming through, and we have to appreciate the things that we are able to collaborate on now. Again, collaborations to clean a house when it's super dirty versus collaborations to clean a house when it's pristine and clean already. Maybe even brand new. You're going to take 2 different approaches. And this is what we're talking about right here. It's a new approach to something old. Once you have this new approach to something that's old, you get something new. Something that has been old to you. And that's amazing to say because this is owed to you. And I think it's been owed to you for so long. Somebody just wants to come in and get the love from you. But that's because you got all the love to give. And their language is different from yours. Now, instead of them coming in trying to give you love in the way that they know, they can start to practice giving you love in a way that they don't know how. But because you're an excellent ass teacher in this aspect, then you can come in and you can build together. You can exchange those cups without fear. Because the fear is coming from you, but the support is coming from the teacher. So this is like a new student and a new teacher on a new school year. Everything is new. You got to give to your teacher just being yourself. And your teacher hopefully is being themselves, and then y'all can build a basis foundation of how to move throughout the rest of the school year. And there it is. This here is the balancing of the masculine side, and then this is also the balancing of the feminine side. So imagine juggling 4 of these together. That is the idea, but over here, we don't juggle 4 coins together. We stabilize them. And so I got the 2 juggling at the bottom. Nope, they're stable now. And then I got the 2 on my upper chakras, and they're balanced. Yeah, because they're stable now. And now instead of exchanging them or balancing them through motion, I'm balancing through my stabilizer muscles. These are like, instead of doing crunches, now we're doing planks. Again, it's a different way to approach the same thing. This is deciding on what parts of the house to clean when it's super dirty. This is knowing what needs to be done when it's super clean. We understand. The thing is, what do we understand? We understand now how to move the emotion. Knights for me are cards in motion, energies in motion. There's just so much sun in the back. Because these cards are in motion, they're able to give. And what are we giving? We're giving our responsibilities and we're taking new ones on. This is the idea of the collaboration. So, and this with this person who I know, again, these are just things that I know that I've been told, and prop tools, intuition. But this person who I know, I'm watching her try to tap into that energetic space. I'm watching. But guess what? How do I just go up to her and just be like, hey, I know what you need? I can't, because I need certain things too. So instead of going up and say, I have what you need, instead of going and say, here's a little bit of help, instead of just saying, I'm going to let them come ask help for me, you just got to let people be people. Give me one more for this Knight of Cups. The way you be a people is to help other people. That would attract y'all to each other by continuing to help the environment. This is the idea of 2 people in a marriage focusing on the marriage and not the person. Objectively speaking, if I was a marriage counselor, what would I do in a situation? God damn it, I'm being a bitch. I need to stop that. God damn it, I'm not listening. I need to stop that. God damn it, I'm being too accepting and not having boundaries. I need to stop that. God damn it, I'm allowing things to occur that I would not. Go, get some space, leave. Make it real. Make the aspects of what you would counsel somebody with appropriate to the counsel right now. Before you need a counselor. You counsel the things that you need to nurture because, again, you are a complete person. You know what right and you know what wrong is. You know how to teach others. You know how to see it for yourself. Do not be afraid to live that passion now because, again, you are not obligated to be anything but yourself. So be that person. Be that whole life that is living. What's our final message? What's our final message? Tower. The tower. So, this is going to be a moment, and it's not going to be a moment that is like a big, huge, physical, drastic thing. This might be a download that just popped the fuck up, and they'll just say, boom, and now you have the tower moment. So there's a tower moment happening. Look. I talked about this earlier. This is a pillar. This is a pillar. But the tower is also a pillar. So looking at this concept here of this tower falling is the idea of one tower falling that is splitting yourself into 2 parts. But as you split yourself into 2 parts, you renew yourself as the tower in between. And as you renew yourself as the tower in between, you can generate 2 new separate towers independent of themselves. So instead of trying to find identity within the marriage, within the relationship between you and the job, your possessions, instead of finding who you are from that aspect, you are destroying that concept, and you're allowing yourself to be a person who can come in as this pillar or as that pillar. But you're not juggling these two things anymore. You're not juggling those two things inside of the marriage anymore. You are being your own person within the confines of the duality called the marriage. You are now in the classroom with the teacher and then the students, or the students and the teacher. You are now on the football team, at the basketball game, in the family dynamic with the kids. It is the idea of I'm not it any longer. It's the idea of it doesn't make me who I am. I've been in school for a long time learning. I've been learning a whole bunch of shit for the last 6 years, 8 years, bro. I've been educating myself like a doctor would on his own journey through his residency. Been learning so much. And there was a time frame where I stopped learning and I didn't know what to do with myself because I associated myself with learning so much. And then I got back and went into school again. Again, the idea is that identity of being the learner, the smart one. That was what I was until I wasn't in school. And then I had to find value in it in a different way. So instead of being the student, constantly learning, I've been an educated student, confirming, passing along information. So my last classes, my last program that I've been in, I haven't been looking just to learn. I've been looking to apply knowledge. The last two programs I was in, I'm applying this shit. I ain't learning it. I'm trying to use it right away so I can get the practice. Instead of the first time I went to school and I'm just trying to be the best student and wasn't teaching myself anything. So it was harder. It was more difficult. I had problems. So same thing with your relationship. Instead of trying to be everything in the relationship to where, again, you can't be the relationship and the person inside of it. You either doing it all, you doing your part. The relationship is probably going to fall down. And even if you don't even have the right understanding, oh, there was nothing bad. Oh, I love so much. Oh, I enjoyed this place so often. You can now go back and you can see it from a different point of view, and you can see the good and the bad, but you can know where you stand in between them both. So I like that the fact that this tower card came out with this at the bottom. It's showing us that we can find two things that are alike and we can separate them. And that's what this tower moment is. It's allowing you to separate yourself from something that you have identified yourself with. Soul Spark Radio, Season 1, I think Episode 7, it was based upon the album Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park. We did a musical analysis on that album. And what we were showing was how people and things hybridize upon you. And as things become a part of you, you think these things are part of you. But these are things that are able to be cut away. But some things must be cut and released through love. Some things must be cut and released through actions and repetitive motions. Some must be cut off by somebody else. And I think we're at that point to where we understand that dynamic, and somebody can now come cut off the other part that's missing. That somebody else can just be a person and come in and just kick that other energy out of you. I'm scared, but I'm so excited to have somebody come and help me in that sense. And guess what? I always get help online, but this is going to be something that happens in your real world. And again, it might just be a simple download. It might just be meeting somebody, making eye contact, and being like, damn, I know this person. Or it might be like, oh, man, I avoided that by just going left. Whew, glad I didn't go right. Whatever it is, it's going to be something simple, but again, it's going to lead you to this beautiful ten of Cups. So, Yeah, I gave a long one today. I think that's a good thing. This wants to come back out. I think that's a good thing. So I appreciate you guys. It wasn't a shorty. So if you're able to make it through all of this, I think you got some good insights. But with that being said, thank y'all for listening. I'll see you next time. Peace.